Hello and welcome to episode 1388 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Tuesday, March 11th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, we decided to get back together once more this week because I was thinking, you're still home, you're still available.
Yeah.
If you can squeeze in an hour, let's just get part two cooking.
Impromptu episode. I love it.
Yeah. I was thinking of it late last night and I was like, I'm going to message him first thing in the morning. We'll see if we can get this done. We're both busy. You're preparing to go to New York. For those that don't know, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't. I talk about it all the time. But I work for a game called Out of the Park Baseball, and we just released our beta today. So we got that out and going, which gives me a little window here as well. Talk more pictures, finish up my SP update that I'm going to get up. I did say yesterday, but then I did have a few things that pushed me back, and I had to meet my sister for a little comedy show last night, too. Went and saw Wayne Brady do a podcast
nice.
live. Yeah, he's such a pro, dude. He's so good. It's like an improv sort of podcast type of thing, and it was a lot of fun. So it's good to get out, do something. But anyway,
I once went to one of those, and it was oh God, what is his name? That's married to. Now I'm fucking blanking. He was like an actor. He was in.
I need more than that. I'm pretty good,
shit.
but I need
It's
more
a
than that.
super popular podcast, and I'm blanking on the dude's name now.
I'm just gonna Google Wayne Brady podcast and obviously not get the one that I.
No, it's not Wayne Brady. He's married to the dude from, or the chick from Frozen, Kristen Bell.
Dax Shepard.
So we went and saw a Dax Shepard live podcast when he was first getting his podcast.
Yeah. Was that fun?
It was really fun. It was actually just a little funny because it was a surprise guest. It was in San Francisco. Danielle really wanted to go. And so we were like, all right, I bought tickets. We went. And the surprise guest was W. Kamau Bell, which is a really, really cool surprise guest. However, that is my twin brother's brother-in-law. So like, we know him.
Right.
Like I hang out with
that's your homie.
Holidays and stuff.
That's crazy, by the way, but also amazing.
So it was like one of those things like, oh, we get to see Dax Shepard interview my brother-in-law. I don't know if he's technically my brother-in-law. It's my brother's brother-in-law.
Or like, there's like a connection there, though.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is our live podcast feed, is that meant just for Discord members, or do we put that out publicly?
I only put it out on the Discord.
Okay.
Were you going?
I was going to, and that's why I waited to ask. I was going to tweet it out.
It's one of the benefits of being a part of the Discord.
That's what I thought. I wanted to make sure you're more keyed in on the Patreon stuff there, and I didn't want to step on those toes there. Okay, well, let's dive in because we got some time, and we're talking pitching again. You had a guy named Spencer Schwellenbach. You weren't done. I'm just kidding. You begged me to talk about this Spencer Schwellenbach guy for an hour. No, if you missed yesterday, you got to go back and listen to it. Justin has Spencer Schwellenbach in his top 10, number 8, I believe. 8.
Yeah, 8th. And if you tried to listen to yesterday's podcast and it sounded garbled, it is fixed. Delete the episode, re-download it. It should be fine. It's a really good episode, so don't miss it.
Big thanks to everyone putting the comments, letting us know on the audio. And big thanks to you for being around and jumping on that quick, because I was getting ready to go to bed. I saw the messages. I was like, I'm going to hit Justin up. He might not see it till the morning. And boom, you got on it, fixed it. Good to go. Let's get into part 2. Let's start with a guy that we're a big fan of here. And we might not deep dive everyone because obviously we've already made jokes about how it's going to take 50 episodes. If we truly deep dive everyone, we won't be done with pitchers until May. But so we'll go a little bit easier on some of the guys that we know. Framber. We've been a big fans here on the show. Has anything changed for you? Do you still rely on him as a relatively bankable volume guy? Or do you have concerns as he's getting, maybe a little bit older? Where are you at on Framber this year?
I mean, I don't have really any major concerns. I think for me, I just have other guys ahead of him that go behind Framber.
Okay.
And so I end up going a different direction.
Right.
So but I have nothing against him, and I don't think he has a bad ADP. I think he's a great kind of SP2 that you can kind of pair with one of the more volatile SP1s. and feel really, really good about the start of your rotation. So you drafted Jacob deGrom, you draft, we were talking about Dylan Cease yesterday being a guy
Yep.
that, like, hey, maybe there is a little bit of downside that the price isn't necessarily reflecting. You pair him with Framber, and all of a sudden you feel pretty good. I will say that he doesn't have the strongest of whips, and he does volume a lot of innings. And so for me, I prefer to pair him with a guy like Bailey Ober, right? Like a guy who
Yeah.
I feel
Bring
really
that whip
confident
down.
may not have the best ERA, but has a really good whip, and the pairing of those two can be really, really sweet.
Right. I agree there. And, looking at Fromber being a ground ball guy with fine strikeouts, he's a great example. And I should have used him yesterday. I went back to Madison Bumgarner. I couldn't think of a current one. He's a great example of the volume Ks looking at the total as opposed to the rate. Unless you play a K9 or a K percentage league, who cares about the rate? He's got 194, 200, and 169 the last 3 years, and the 169 came in 176 innings because he wasn't quite the uber workhorse that we're used to with just 28 starts, but still pretty bankable out there. And, things can happen, right? He could get hurt. He's not impervious. But that Houston trusts him to be a 6-7 inning guy consistently. And that's what we mean with the volume. Same with Logan Webb. And I always match them as a righty-lefty versions of each other. It seems like Webb goes a good bit later. And I don't understand that. Well, why? We don't have to get into Webb too deeply here, but do you have a split between these two, Webb and Framber Valdez?
I have them. I mean, I have them virtually right next to each other.
I do too.
So,
Like they are joined at the hip for me.
I have like Zach Gallen right in between them, but like the difference in overall value in a 12-team league is like 50 cents between Fromber and Webb for me. So
it's just not much. I'm looking at them last 3 years, 113 whip to 115. Doesn't matter who's who because it's not really a difference.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that Webb was the higher one.
Yeah.
And then
I have a little bit higher whip on Webb.
Yeah, but both of his rates are a little higher. 3.22 ERA to 3.06, but 613 innings to 5.77 or to 5.76.
The lack of strikeouts on Webb may be the issue.
But then you go right back to what I'm saying. Well, between he and Fromber, because Fromber has a better rate and similar volume. But my general point about like also give Webb credit for that volume. He gets 163, 194, 172 the last 3 years. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. That's a representative number there. But again, they're a good bit apart here on these rankings. Framber Valdez going pick 60, Logan Webb pick 100. What?
Yeah,
I don't think they're 40 picks different. I really don't.
We were talking about, I think it was Webb a little bit last night on the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast with Dave, because I think he drafted Webb in a league. And it was like, he was just sitting there and like he kept falling. And I was just like, I'm not even a big Webb guy, but I took him
at a certain point, man.
Yeah. Like I think he's just one of those guys that is kind of boring that people kind of underrate because of the boringness. But I like those guys at the top of my rotation because it gives me the opportunity to take gambles later on guys that might have some more upside, or don't have the safety level of a guy like Fromber.
I like that foundation, man. I mean, I can't get enough of it with these two. I like Fromber. I just don't see them 40 picks apart. I did some adjusting here on our sheet. So take an eye on, take a look at that. We were going by ADP, but I want to do some groupings here. And I got to put the three twins together. Again, I know that's not how twins work. It's usually two, but Lopez, Ober, and Ryan, they got to be together here. I want to talk about the trio. They're very similar in terms of their overall profile, what they do. I mention it a lot. High strikeouts, low walks, homer issues because they live in the zone and they're going to pepper the zone and you're prone to more homers there. ADPs for them, and again, we're looking at the last 11 drafts for the RotoWire Online Championship. That's March 8th to March 11th. We're recording this on the 11th. And you get 11 drafts even with such a tight window, because they're running hot and heavy over there with the RotoWire OCs. You got Pablo Lopez at 74, Bailey Ober at 86, and Joe Ryan at 93. Now, do you like all three of these guys or just the first two? Because I know you're big on Ober and Lopez.
Yeah, I don't dislike Ryan, but I have Ryan considerably lower than these guys.
Does his discount play a role? Is it enough of a discount comparatively, or you'd rather pay up for Ober Lopez?
Let me look at him compared to ADP, or my rank
Because
compared to ADP.
it's only
No,
9 picks
I think
from
the discount is actually perfect. So
okay.
I have him 10 overall spots above ADP in my ranks. When I compare kind of my overall ranks to ADP. So like I would be totally fine with Ryan. I have not ended up with him. I think my biggest issue is the shoulder, and
Fair.
can he volume in the same way as the other two guys? I just have more innings for both Ober and Lopez, but like I bet if I put in, and actually I will just do it real quick. Like if I made Joe Ryan's innings 175, my guess is he just jumps right up to that tier. Yeah, he would
That
literally
would
be
be my
right.
guess.
He would be right below Ober, Pablo Lopez, and Shoto Imanaga, who I have
There you go.
kind of all bunched together. So I'm not going to do that because of my concerns with that shoulder. But
I don't think that's unfair.
I'm not out on Ryan by any stretch of the imagination. I think all three of these guys can be aces.
Yep.
Ryan, I would definitely want to pair with a Framber or a Logan Webb or someone like that in order to make sure I have kind of that concrete inning space. But I think all three of these guys have the potential to finish the season as SP1s.
Yes, big fan of all three, but share your outlook on kind of where I value them and want Ryan to the least of the three. Excuse me there. Sorry, I was getting something prepared here to look at all three of their stats over the last 3 years. And what we're going to find out is that they're close. The three of them are really close. And Ryan, believe it or not, though, would you be surprised to learn that he has the best strikeout to walk ratio over the last 3 years?
It wouldn't surprise me at all. I think he. I mean, I've had issues with Ryan in the past because of the home run rate.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at some point you got to just go. Like he still figures out a way to make it work.
Yeah, 22% strikeout minus walk. Sorry, I thought you were done there. Lopez over 20 apiece. So just a couple points, but then the home run rate, to your point, 1.4, which is strong for Ryan. Strong in a bad way, meaning it's too hot, heavy. And then 1.1 for Lopez, 1.3 for Ober. So Ober's teetered a little bit.
I will say that like that 1.4 for Ryan is heavily influenced by 1.78 in 2023. If you look at 2022 and 2024, it was 1.22, 1.27. That's still higher than you would like it to be.
Sure.
But considering he walks nobody,
a lot of solos.
It's like I'm not super worried about it from a straight skills perspective. So I'm totally fine drafting Ryan. And I think the hard part is he's one of these guys that there always feels like there's someone in my draft that loves him more than me.
When you usually would pivot, or not pivot, but go to one of the other twins first. And then I understand if you're not double dipping there, you've got a Lopez, you got an Ober, because you do have them higher. So that's totally fine.
The hard part is triple dipping because I literally have drafted both Lopez and Ober on the same team multiple times.
I can't even blame you, man. I'm with it.
And I don't know that I want the entire Minnesota.
No, because then you're really playing with that home run luck, and really hoping that you don't get too.
And you're hoping the Twins don't do what they did last season, which was fall apart at the end.
Implode.
Utterly, there's no wins, and it wasn't their fault. Like they were all good down the stretch.
There's no hitting.
The offense just completely hit the IL at the same time. So like, I don't want to necessarily roster all three of these guys on a team, but I probably should make a point of trying to get Joe Ryan on a team before the end of the season, before the end of draft season.
Just to get the portfolio.
Have a little exposure.
Yeah. Get the portfolio of the group. Let's go to Bryce Miller. Jumps up to 180 innings, figures out I believe it's a splitter that really helped him combat lefties. He and Wu, it's funny, and I kind of like the way it sets up where you kind of pair Gilbert and Kirby together, and then Wu and Miller. Just in terms of like what they do. Again, these comps aren't necessarily 100%. They do the same. Although with Wu and Miller, it is kind of similar, where they both young up-and-coming guys do a lot of good, but boy, can they not handle lefties. Well, Miller took the step forward with a new pitch and really cut into his platoon split. I think Wu was also able to cut into it, but he didn't really change his mix, so I have a little less certainty in it. Maybe that's unfair. And I know you have bigger issues with Wu about his health, but what do you
Yeah.
think of Bryce Miller developing that splitter and really taking a step forward? 294 ERA, 098 WHIP.
I mean, I was absolutely in love with it, and I was big on Miller coming into last year, and so to see him then make that kind of change and really become the ace that I thought he could was pretty awesome. And I'm a big believer in Bryce Miller. I'm actually a little surprised that if one of the things that Dave and I talked about last night on the Friends Fantasy Benefits podcast was we kind of took a look at the first two main events, since those boards are publicly available.
Sweet.
Thanks, War Dog. And I'm double checking, but if I'm remembering correctly, Bryce Miller was a faller in those drafts.
Okay.
Which was a little bit surprising. So, we talk a lot about, the pitching moving up. And
somebody got to come down, though, and it's not always hitters. Sometimes other pitchers.
Somebody's got to come down. Now, this is very anecdotal because it's only two drafts, but Bryce Miller was available in the 7th round of both of these man events. And so was passed over by guys that I would never take over Bryce Miller. Spencer Strider went over him. Jeff Hoffman went over him in both leagues.
Well, if you need the closer, I'm on the Hoffman train. I understand, he's got
Tyler Glass now went 2 rounds ahead of Miller.
I mean, I can understand that, but maybe not 2 rounds. But I can understand him going over him. I mean, he did what you want, right? Like for me, it's like how could you really have too much to say negative about Miller? He addressed the one big issue. And by the way, I'm looking at Wu. He did throw his changeup more. There were some things, but I guess I'm just more sold by Miller developing a new pitch and it really working. Again, Wu also cut into his platoon split. He just kind of did it with what he had. So maybe there's credit to be given there, though, too, because, hey, he didn't even need a new pitch. He just worked with it.
I think Wu is a fantastic pitcher if you can get past the injury issues. I personally can't. And so for me, I won't be touching Wu, but I love Miller this year. I have him ranked, let's see, probably, is it 14th? 13th.
Going pick 78 here.
14th. 14th. He's my 14th starting pitcher this year, 15th starting pitcher, sorry.
Here, to keep this in order, let me pull up my SP rankings because I have the ADP where I cut out all the RPs so I can see which starter Miller is instead of just giving his wholesale ADP. He's the 18th starter off the board, and I just updated this morning. People are so optimistic about Strider, says Brett, and that is true.
And 1 pick ahead in the main event.
You definitely see that in something like a main, where people are going to try to shoot the moon. By the way, I don't necessarily think you need to take more chances in an overall. I think that's an overblown notion.
It's a mistake. I've done the research on this, and I talk about this every year. If you're in an overall contest, the way to win is not to do this stuff.
No, that's just like an all or nothing thing.
In your first 10 rounds, you should be drafting fairly safely for the most part, because volume is what wins. Not the breakouts that win people main events happen in the last 10 rounds.
Yeah, it gives people this license to go crazy for somebody like Strider, which, hey, to each their own. I go for my guys too. So I'm not even trying to throw stones here too much. I'm just saying I think the reasoning is shoddy. If you want to go for Strider because you believe in him and you'll sit out the month and get 5 months of what you think is going to be amazing, cool. Don't tell me it's because you're in an overall contest though, and so you gotta go for the moon or something, because that's not. I don't think that's really factually accurate.
It works better in an OC in a 12 team, right?
Because you can burn and churn so much there. Yeah. So you can play it a little bit more, but in 15s, no.
Go and all leagues are publicly available after the fact, right? So you can go and actually look at the historical teams that have won these overalls, and they are remarkably boring. Right.
So you got to be careful there. Let's go to these 2 Dodgers. Tyler Glasnow and Roki Sasaki going 79 and 81 respectively, with Shota Imanaga mixed in between them. We'll get to him in the next tier. Again, we're making some arbitrary judgments on these tiers here just to split the guys up.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure you're out on both. They're both Dodgers, and you're hating ass B. But you're obviously worried about
I
the
think
workload.
I think I have a good reason. I mean, for me, the workload isn't as big of an issue on Glass now as it is on
Okay, good, because I
Sasaki.
was going to get you on that.
It's the injury concern on Glass now.
Well, what injuries has he ever had?
Yeah, never. And it wasn't like he missed time with elbow issues last year, right?
Not that I recall.
No, yeah. So for me, it's just I understand on a per inning basis that Glass now is one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I believe that. And if you could guarantee me 145 innings, 150 innings, I'd probably say it's an SP1.
Can't guarantee you that because he's never hit it before. He
Yeah.
has improved each of the last 2 years, going up to 120 and 134. Those are both new career highs for Tyler Glass now. I think he'll be in that similar range again, but you can't deny the injury issues. Like, you just can't with him. Like, they're just so pervasive over his entire career. He's 31 years old. But on a per inning basis, he's still wonderful. So I do think you can do some things where if you got a few guys, out front, maybe if you're going pitching heavy and you've already got two guys that have some inning stability to their profiles, and he's like your third, or even just one, classic, go back to Webb and Valdez, pair him with Glass now. I can get behind some of that. I'm not anti-Glass now, though. He's just so damn good on a per inning basis. Sasaki, I'm a little bit more cautious on, and I'll point out that, let's see here, going to Sasaki, he is the 21st pitcher off the board, and I have him 22nd. So I'm in line with the market on that front. Glass now, I'm definitely different than, though. Let me see.
I think Sasaki has a lot of the same issues as Glass now, though. So I think it is something that we should kind of discuss. Like, this is a guy who dealt with a lot of injuries in Japan and has not
healthy right now, though.
Not thrown a lot of innings over individual seasons during the course of his career. He's also arb controlled, after they've given him that bonus for a while. Like, he is part of the long-term future of the Dodgers. I think they're going to be very careful with him.
Sure.
And I think this. So for me, I could not put myself in a position where I could give him more than like 130 innings. I think
can't disagree with that.
I think there'll be a good 130 innings, but that lack of volume hurts him tremendously, comparatively speaking, to a lot of the other upper tier guys. And so I have him outside my top 30 starting pitchers because of that. I don't necessarily have a problem with people taking the gamble. It's just not necessarily something I would do on a guy, and actually have him outside my top 45 starting pitchers. I think I have him around.
What? This shit again?
Yeah.
Wait, that's Sasaki, not Glass now, right?
Sasaki. No, okay. Glass now I have it 30.
That's still crazy, but okay. Sasaki, I can hear a little bit more.
The volume on Glass now, like I project him for 135. Like,
how many guys do you have throwing a lot of innings? I'm so serious right now, because there's just not that many that, like, these guys, these Glass now types, the seasons that they're putting up, they're registering in the top, 20, 25 every year. We only had 21 guys throw a $180, unless you finagle Singer and Anderson and scoop them up. You had 179 and a third and 2/3.
So last year we actually had more guys throw more innings than we did the previous year. So
okay.
This isn't like a downward trend where we can go like, hey, every year.
How many years in a row was it down, though, before this?
I think
several. Yes. Yeah. So I don't think you can turn it around and say, well, now just guys are pitching innings like crazy.
No, but you had 58 guys qualify for the ERA title. Like,
okay.
that is a fair amount of guys. And if you look at my ranks, I am fairly consistent in terms of like, hey, in order to volume the way you need to volume, unless you are an unworldly talent, then you need 150 plus innings. Now, there are some of my guys that, like, hey, like Blake Snell breaks into my top 30 now. Yamamoto breaks into my top 30 now.
Glass now ranked 20th. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to kind of put this out and see where you go with it, though. Glass now was 20th on the auction calculator last year with 134 innings. Reynaldo Lopez was 16th. Now, with Raylo, I think he had a lot of wins, didn't he? Didn't he win like whenever he pitched?
Yeah,
maybe?
Yeah.
He had, and he only had 8. He only had 8. Oh, it's 1.99 ERA. Sorry.
Yeah,
I knew
that's
I knew he had something super outlier that was like, okay, we can't be betting on that again. But he only needed 135 innings, and same with Glass now. Like, I'm not saying volume doesn't matter. It
It
does,
does.
but I'm concerned you're overrating it to the detriment of losing out on these crazy high upside guys.
I'm okay missing out on those guys though. I mean,
But
I
you're taking worse pitchers on a banked volume that is not banked. That's my issue. Like, because you can't guarantee it. And so what if
oh yeah,
they
yeah.
throw the 130? They're already worse.
That is just the risk you take, right? Like, I mean, and I'm not
That's the
saying
risk
that
you take, not that I
Yeah.
take.
but
I want the talent.
I'm not. It's not like I'm passing up on Glass now for bums. Like, I'm not drafting Mitch Keller over
Okay,
Tyler
it's
Glass
not
now,
Mitch Keller, I know,
you
but
know.
give me some guys that you've got like 7 ranks ahead of Glass now.
Freddie Peralta,
That's
Joe Ryan.
terrible. What? How you gonna complain about Joe Ryan's valid health concern and have him 6-7 ranks clear of Tyler Glass now? Because if I'm putting him on near equal footing from a volume standpoint right now, give me the guy that doesn't have a 1-4 homer night, and I'll give you credit for 1-2 because I'll take out the crummy year, but I'm still taking Glass now all day. They should be right next to each other at best. At best. That's my opinion. And then Freddie Peralta, man, I think inertia is kind of helping him like stay where he's at.
I will say they're less than $1 apart.
Okay.
And like legitimately, like, and see, now we're running into a wins issue again.
And okay, let me ask you this. This might be worth.
I need to bump up his wins, and that might bring him up farther.
I mean, that.
I'm still not gonna draft Glass now, just because the injury concern is just too much for me.
That's okay. I'm
not
gonna tell you who to draft.
When you get past, like, I have Luis Castillo. What is that? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I have Luis Castillo at 22. You get past Luis Castillo, and I'm concerned about a lot of these guys who
so take the most talented guys, and Glass now zips up to the top of that list once you start to get into this grouping, and that's kind of my point.
Or I just pass on all of them.
Yes, but you should still have him ranked where he belongs, and I'm making the case that he belongs.
I have him ranked where I have him valued.
I don't know. Then you need to change your valuations if you got Joe Ryan tangibly ahead of Glass now.
But no, I'm saying they're not. He's not tangible.
I said 6 or 7 spots. How many wins is doing the damage?
Yeah, I only put him down for 9 wins.
And give me 10. Who's 10 spots ahead of Glass now? Then go further. I'm trying to figure out like who you got
value ahead. Okay, so I have, let's see, Glass now is worth $12. Blake Snell is worth 14.
Yeah, because you adjusted him. You need to do the same adjustment to
Luis Castillo, Logan Webb.
I can't get there with Luis Castillo, and I'm a long time Luis Castillo guy. Can't do it. Can't do it.
I get it. I would rather, especially at the top of my draft, have a guy that I feel more confident is going to get to 160, 170 innings.
Why don't you also, on a separate tab, run your rankings without wins and see where that does?
I could do that.
Dollar values without wins. I used to do that exercise as a write-up in the winter where I would take the auction calculator and lop off those wins dollars, and then let's see where we're at, because those wins are so crazy. And the guy that like spikes 15, 16, 17, versus the guy that gets 12, it's colossal.
Remember, we went through this exercise with Yamamoto. Like, he jumped up like 20 spots in my ranks by adding 2 wins
off of 2 dubs. Yep.
Yeah, like, and I mean, I'll do it to Glass now right now. I will give Glass now 11 wins, because I think 11 wins is definitely more in line with where Glass now probably should be.
He can definitely get there. And like I was bringing up yesterday, when he pitched, when Glasnow was healthy and upright, he was going 6+. Like, they were treating him like a legit dude. He just happened to get hurt again, which he always does, and you just got to bake in the missed time. And I do get that. Here's the thing too, though. do you have any way to account, because you're saying give me like the safer guy for the innings? Well, you still get innings replacing that Glasnow spot, right? So like,
Okay, so I think this is definitely a discussion of, because we had this discussion on Potapalooza with Nick.
mhm.
And I understand where Nick is coming from. But I think it really just depends on your depth of league. Like,
Sure.
because in a 15-team league, the replacement value, do you really want that? Like pairing that with
Yes.
Glasnow isn't. Look at you're talking about starting Griffin Canning. Like,
I mean, you picked the wrong name for me, buddy. You know
okay,
I love my Angels starters.
or well, he's not an Angel anymore. So
I
he's just
know.
11.
He might be good this year. No,
Okay, so moving Glass out to 11 wins busted him up to above Yamamoto.
there we go. Stupid
And
wins.
that would be, let's see, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20. It would make him my 23rd starter.
That's a whole different story all of a sudden. I recommend, as an exercise, doing that separate tab, take off the wins and see where everyone is, get a better idea of where their skills are getting them, and then compare it against the wins and see, like, do I have a guy who's $4 more because of wins? Maybe I shouldn't trust him as much. And then do I have somebody who's very underrated because of wins, because they're on a crummy team or something like that? Maybe he could spike the 13 wins and maybe I could trust him a little bit more. I think it's a worthy exercise to kind of get the wins out of there and see what's what.
I agree. I mean, I agree with you. Like, on a per inning basis, like, Glasnow is an elite pitcher, and I'm just gonna give him 10 wins, because I think that moved him up too high for my liking. But even 10 wins will move him from that kind of 31 spot up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. So no, he actually just still goes to the exact same spot. So
nice little wins boost there.
He goes behind Yamamoto instead of in front of Yamamoto.
That's what, honestly, like, I kind of see them similarly. You know, two studs on a great team, wonderful per inning, but you are going to have to do some replacement. You know, 15 team, I'm not saying that the waiver wire like rules or anything, but I don't mind kind of filling in the gap there a little bit. And you can actually emulate this on the auction calculator, you know. So I'm going to pick ATC because it's the, the composite one.
Mm-hmm.
You click the experimental button and it adds some actual extra value for players who do not have full playing time. And when we do that, Glasnow is 12th. Yamamoto is 11th. George Kirby 10th.
Is that for obviously. A 12-team league or for a 15?
That's for a 15.
Oh, okay.
So, and Webb, still 13th, by the way. So it's not dinging the volume guys there.
I think at a 10 or 12 especially, you should be targeting guys like Glasnow, right? And I'll be honest, like, I was out on Glasnow last year. You know where I ended up getting him? Was Tout Wars. Because he went for like $14, and I was like, no way is Tyler Glasnow.
I'll take that.
For $14, I will take that all day, especially because it's unlimited IL.
Right.
But you're also talking about a guy who could miss large chunks of the season.
Absolutely.
Could be done at any moment.
But don't make me tell you that everyone is like that, because you know I'm going to do that. Let's move on to Imanaga.
But what it give me I don't
his likelihood.
The likelihood of him doing that versus someone like Logan Webb.
Like a 2% difference. That's my whole point.
No.
That's my whole point. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Let's move on, because we only got a little bit of time today.
But that, like, it's not that much. Show it to Imanaga. I'm going to get you started on him. I got to get my lunch off the porch. I mistimed my lunch delivery. But I'm going to come in, and I'm not going to be so friendly.
Oh, okay. I have actually...
y'all are overrating him. But go ahead and get started. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yep. I love Shota Imanaga. I have to start off by saying earlier on in the offseason, and I've been kind of waiting for a few episodes to do this, earlier on in the offseason, I had a hypothesis that Japanese pitchers were more likely to get hurt or struggle in their second year coming back from Japan, right?
Okay.
And I contacted some people who are much smarter than me. I said, hey, help me out.
So you called anybody?
I called everybody. Not anybody, everybody.
Everybody.
I talked to Tim McLeod, I talked to Blair Williams, and I talked to another guy who I'm now blanking on his name, and I really don't want to do that, so I'm actually going to try to find the email that I had with him. And after using them as resources and doing research on my own, I've come to the conclusion that there's not nearly enough data to support that hypothesis.
I caught the tail end of it. The idea that they get worse in the second year.
Yeah, or hurt in the second year.
Okay.
Guys like
so a few guys did that, and then it became a thing. And Senga probably was another check mark for the people who believe in it. But, there can be some confirmation bias on stuff like that too, especially like when the overall sample pool is not that high, right? So you remember a few key ones, and you're dealing with a sample of like, 25, 30 prominent guys over the last 15, 20 years anyway. So if you remember 4 or 5 of them, you're like, dude, they always get hurt in the second year. And it's like, well, it's not always, relax. So I'm not concerned about that.
I'm not concerned about it either.
My concern, and the reason that I'm not so keen on Imanaga, is he panned out exactly the way we were concerned, and the home runs went through the roof in the second half, and he just laid such a strong foundation that he was able to outrun it. I'm concerned that he can't do that for another full year.
Oh, guy's name was Tom Hall, who really, really helped me.
Oh, Tom Hall. Yeah, I see him in a lot of different chats and whatnot.
Fantastic dude. Really appreciate all him.
Awesome. So Tom, Blair, and Tim all helped you, gathering the data and going through this to figure out, do Japanese and Korean pitchers struggle in their second year and get hurt more consistently? And the data says not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, the data is definitely inconclusive, but it definitely points to this is not something we should be worried about.
It's not some trend that gets treated, because it gets treated like a pretty well-established thing, and I think it's just more one of those like ideas that kind of gets blown up a little bit because a few smart people said it, and no shade on them. I'm sure I've got some principles like that.
I had concerns,
but okay, so back to the homers with Shota Imanaga. 1.4 homer 9. Again, he put up a 99 WHIP or 99 ERA in that first month, 2.67 in the second. So he laid such a good foundation. Now, when the homers did come in, the ERA did not go completely to hell. It did in June. He had classic June swoon, but then right back on 2.55 in July, 3.68 in August, and 1.67 in September. My concern is, though, with that many consistent homers, that walk rate needs to stay pristine. And maybe even more so than the walk rate, which is a little bit more skill-based that I can buy for Shota, the hit rate has to stay down.
Yeah.
I think he's getting boosted up a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. And maybe I think I have to be a little bit more fair to him, though, and probably put him with the Twins, because I think he completes the quartet.
And that's exactly where I have him. But that for me is still a top.
But that's going to move him up. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry. That's going to move him up for me, but still not where you and the market are at.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. I understand there's concerns. And I would not pair him necessarily with those Twins guys. So I'm either taking those guys or I'm taking Imanaga. And I would like to pair him more with a Framber or a Logan Webb type of guy. But dude doesn't walk guys. He doesn't. And that's the skill I buy. But keeping your hit suppression going is not easy. Now, he's a fly ball guy too, Imanaga, if I recall correctly. It's a great park with a great outfield defense behind him.
Right. There's positives here. I'm not like dead to the world on Imanaga. With my move up, he's back into the 20s. I had him early 30s, but with the move up now, Imanaga is going to be, excuse me here, I think I scrolled over him like a goofish. Shota. 28. And the market has him at 20 right now. So I'm still behind the curve, but I put him right there. Put him right there with the Twinkies and with his teammate, by the way, who let me bring him into the mix here. Justin Steele, I don't think he's next on our sheet because he goes way. Is he underrated? He's 34.
Justin Steele is underrated.
Crazy underrated, right?
But
I love Justin Steele.
The issues with Steele is the health, right? Like he has had
hamstring though. The big injury, right? I don't give a crap about that.
But it's just reoccurring stuff, right? Where I don't know that you want to project Justin Steele for, 170 innings.
He had elbow tendonitis at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I want to point that out so anyone's yelling at their phone. Justin Steele did have elbow tendonitis at the end of the year there, but the hamstring was the big thing. That's kind of a fluke injury off rip, very first game of the year that really sucked. But man, I don't know that he should be going 34. And I frankly don't know if he should be going below Imanaga. That's the big thing for me.
I think he should be going below Imanaga just because of the workload concerns. But
maybe they should be going back to back.
Yeah, I mean, I have him with a 3.08 ERA.
What do you got Imanaga for? Steele for 3.08?
112 whip. I have Imanaga for a 3.45 ERA and a 1.01 whip.
So that whip's giving him the edge over Steele.
Yeah. Well, and I just updated Steele because I had Steele's wins too low too. Like I have Steele kind of in that Yamamoto Glasnow area.
And he's going 34th pitcher off the board, not
Ryan,
up there.
I think Steele is an absolute steal.
Yeah. I mean, pun intended. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it writes itself right there. I moved him up here because, again, we're not necessarily going in perfect order of the ADP. But I'll tell you, like I said, he's the 34th off the board. Let me get you an actual number ADP on that for Justin Steele. Pick 118, whereas Shota is going 80. 80 to 118. I don't see that kind of a split between the two Cubs teammates. I just don't. And I think Steele is a nice bargain.
I do have them with a split, but I have it's an innings thing. I only projected Steele for 155 innings. I projected Imanaga for 180. So I think that you can make the argument that they,
Steele hit the volume the year before, $173. Like he's taken 30 turns. So
I'm just playing it conservative, considering he ended the year with that tendonitis in the elbow and the other kind of injuries he's had. But I don't know if you've seen Steele pitch in spring, but he looks.
I have not gotten eyes on him, but I know that is starting to add some fuel.
You should
he sucks.
Yeah,
we hate Justin Steele. He's a loser, dude. I would never draft him.
Terrible first name.
Dumbass first name. Stupid last name that's a homonym. Are you taking stuff or are you a hard metal? I don't know. Don't draft him. That guy's a total loser. This is what I'm doing now. I'm throwing out bunk info.
I'm trying
to get advantage.
You some steel to put on your trophy case.
That's positive. He's going to steal your draft money and burn it because he's going to ruin your team. Don't draft him, especially on Saturday, March 22nd at about 2 p.m. Central if you're in a main event online. Don't draft him then, especially if I happen to be in it. That'd be crazy. No, I like Justin Steele. I would never give out false info. I'm not a dildo. Anyway, Max Fried is now... Are they going with a one-man rotation over there, or did they find 4 corpses to put behind him?
It might be a 0-man rotation very, very soon, because I am petrified about Max Fried too. It's
bleak, dude. They almost got me feeling some sympathy for Yankees fans right now. I'm like this close, Justin. They went
with the Orioles not doing anything in terms of adding to that rotation, and not trading any of the young players away for studs. They had me feeling 3 weeks ago the Yankees were going to run away with this division.
Right.
I
didn't have run away because the Red Sox, but I had them pumped.
Yeah, and now I feel like, holy crap, are the Red Sox going to run away with this division?
Don't sleep on the Rays, man. They were down for a year. This is exactly the time that everyone sleeps on the Rays because we saw them look vulnerable.
I think this is a dog fight. I think this is going to be
a
dog fight. I think the Blue Jays will be better. I don't know that they're going to be good, but I think they'll be better than they were last year.
And I won't fully count out the Yankees. The pitching is in dire straits right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not. But I think this is a dogfight of a division. I think this is going to be really, really fun to watch.
So let's talk Maxey. Let's get to brass tacks here on Maxey. Sorry to keep you going here just on the time basis. $174 last year, but back with some issues. 78 innings the year before. I understand that you're going to have some trepidation. We do not have to rehash the entire injury combo that we've been having throughout this entire offseason here. But he did end on the field, and you're with me where you always take that as a strong positive. So where are we at right now? You say you're petrified. What does that petrification. I don't know if that's a word. What's that showing up as in terms of a ranking and dollar value and all that with Max Fried? Hit us with some numbers.
I did project him for 165 innings.
Okay.
I projected him for a 3.38 ERA and a 1.18 WHIP. It doesn't have him very high in my ranks though.
Interesting.
I don't know.
How many dubs?
I have him for 11.
That seems low.
Maybe I should bump that up, and maybe that will. I think
Two more wins there, I think, is going to boost him. Where is he currently sitting before the 11? Before 11 goes to 13 or 12 wins?
I think that's putting him like around 40.
You need right click on the A column, insert column, and number the column so that you know what starter number they are.
I can't because it'll fuck up my sheet.
Because of the Tanner sheet. There is a workaround for that because I had the same issue.
Yeah,
I would need to look. I would need to walk you through it by looking at it because I could never do tech support without visually seeing things. But yeah, you got to move them up.
I'm as we speak, I'm going to add one win.
I will say at the same time, I think I got to move Fried down a little bit. Not because I don't like him. I got him 14. I think what's really happening though is when I'm getting battle tested in my drafts, I'm not taking him there. And so I want to be a little bit more honest with that. I've landed on him because he lasts and he stays as my top guy, and I skip him one more round and he stays as my top guy and he comes back one more round. Okay, then I take him. So I think I'm a little aggro at 14. I like him.
And I have drafted him. I got him as my SP3 in a Gladiator.
Ooh.
And I felt stoked about that.
Absolutely. I'm totally down with that. I got no beef with that.
Yeah, I just gave him another win, and that moved him up to right around the top 30.
Okay. And that's in line with the market. So you are now closer to the market on Fried.
Christopher Sanchez and Robbie Ray and Hunter Brown. I think that feels a lot better about his rank. But I'm not against taking Max Fried. I just want him kind of in a good spot where he's my number 3 starter as opposed to my number 2 starter. And, because I don't know how the park's going to play for him in New York. It is, new big contract, new team. These are the kind of guys that you tend to want to stay away from if you're using the smart system that Rick and Glenn are famous for. I don't buy that stuff as much as other people, and so I'm not as worried about. For me, it is the elbow issues in the past still kind of loom in my head a little bit. But when he is on the mound, he is a fantastic
Max Fried, one of the best pitchers in baseball. I think he's underrated for the time he's on the mound. You can have your concerns.
174 last year,
yeah.
So I'm definitely less concerned about a Max Fried than I am about a Tyler Glasnow. I just know Glasnow's upside is through the
remarkable. Sure, because Glasnow can be striking out like 12 per 9 type of vibe, whereas Fried's one of those lower guys.
Strike out 12 for the season.
Yes, he'll get 12 entire strikeouts.
Yeah,
but yeah, I do like him, and I'm pretty fine with I'm more than pretty fine with his price. I don't want to undersell that because again, I think the market's coming in a bit light on Max
one of those
Fried.
guys I would love to pair with like a Bailey Ober because I don't think Fried's a very good whip guy necessarily. But like if you pair him with a Bailey Ober, you all of a sudden
let him bring Fried brings the ERA down, Ober brings the whip down, smash the Ks, good win potential.
Good about Ober's, or Lopez's innings total.
Right.
I think that is a pretty interesting pairing.
Aaron Nola goes a little bit after Fried here. Make sure I'm not skipping anybody. Yeah, I think we're on track here. We're almost back on. Like I said, we're purposely not following the ADP to a T, but with some of these groupings, we're kind of back on track here. So he is the 25th starter off the board in these recent drafts, and Fried, just for posterity, there is 23rd. And so in the DCs that I was looking at, and this is probably closers pushing him down, but Fried, in my last update of ADP for DCs, he was the 30th starter off the board. So in these 12 teamers, he's starting to move back up. And I wonder if that's some starters dying and some closers being pushed down because the people aren't chasing them as aggressively in a non-DC situation. Aaron Nola is about as boring as it gets these days. He's got some volatility with the ERA. It usually seems to happen to him. I think I used that exact terminology with Wheeler yesterday for that 1 year where his ERA spiked, because the defenses that they put out there in Philly aren't always the best. And so sometimes they sell the guys a little bit short. And in fairness, in one of these 4+ ERA years that Nola had, he had a 1.5 homer. So it didn't just happen to him, but it seemed to be a confluence of things. 4.46 ERA for 2023. Everyone bought the dip. It was kind of easy. Nobody was really freaking out. Drops back down to 357. But it has been this every other year thing for the last four. 463, 325, 446, 357. And now 3 of those 4 years, the homers have been 1.3 or higher for Nola. Do we have any concerns here? Is he a little bit too pricey maybe? Should he be a few spots down? And we're talking small moves here when we're still in the upper ranks, but where are we at on Nola?
I go back and forth on Nola.
I understand that because his ERA does.
And there was like some talk, and I'm trying to find it actually, but I'm not finding it. There was some talk about Nola like struggling or having some velocity issues in spring.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not seeing it anywhere now. So now I'm wondering, am I making this up? I mean, because here's the thing about Nola, like, yes, the ERA does fluctuate, and that it can be really frustrating, especially when your ace is giving you 190 innings of a 4.46.
That's tough.
Did in 2023, but dude throws volume.
Yep.
And
bankable volume, as bankable as you can get.
It's usually really good volume, or not really good, but pretty good volume. And that volume is important to me. And so, like,
we know.
I have Aaron Nola like in between Snell and Yamamoto, which feels like a weird spot.
It's interesting, right? Because that is the 2 different types between the 2 Dodgers and him.
And that's
and Nola,
after moving those guys up, right?
Like, where do you want to go with them? Now, I'm not telling you this number to be like, this is a good number and you should be like super giddy about this. I'm putting it in the context of like, yes, it hurt, but it didn't kill you. In 2023, he was the 45th starter on the auction calculator. Again, not what you paid for, but Nola was still worth keeping in a lot of scenarios, especially like a 15-teamer. You ate the ERA, but you still got a decent enough whip. I forgot how many wins. Sorry, I got 8 gorillion tabs open right now. Worse than normal.
In 2023, he got 12 wins.
Okay, so 12 wins, that's not crazy, but 202 strikeouts and a good whip was still enough to kind of like keep him in the mix a little bit. Again, SP 45 is not what you paid for. I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig here, but it didn't kill you to the point where I think you're still, the volume was good enough that it was still worth having around. I don't think it was ever the right move to cut him in a 15-teamer during 2023.
No.
And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make there. So even with this volatility that he is bankable volume insofar as you're going to get bankable 32+ starts for 4 straight years. Now, the tough part on that is like that tipping point of like, when does that start to work against a guy where you're like, well, now he's piling up some, and I try not to get too hung up on that.
But the thing that we like, and you should get hung up on that, because that's why Mitch Keller isn't ranked highly, right? Because like he'll throw you 190 innings, but you don't want all of those 190.
No. I meant the where the volume starts to be used against you as a breakdown counterpoint, where you say, oh, he's thrown 32+ starts each of the last 4 years. Now he's going to break down, right? There's that pivot point where people start to turn it on the guy. And I don't like that.
I don't like that either. Because
I don't think we have any precision for that.
No, I don't. I mean, like those are the people like saying, "Oh, well, Chris Sale's going to break down at some point. Justin Verlander's going to break down at some point," and it took them 15 years,
right,
to get paid out on that. Like, I'm like, if that happens, that happens. It can happen anyway.
That's kind of where I'm at with somebody.
You don't need 1,000 innings thrown to break down, right? Like,
yes,
at some point you can just break down because you break down.
And he's still 32. Like, that's not that old. I know people's ages start with a 3 in fantasy baseball, and like, kill him. Put him in the retirement home.
What makes Nola so valuable is that volume, right? Like, he is a pretty bankable 180, 190 innings. And yes, the ratios may not be what you're looking for necessarily from in SP2, but you're gonna get like 180 strikeouts. Like that is just a good volume of strikeouts. You're gonna get 12, 13 wins because he's on a good team. He's gonna pitch in a lot of games, and go deep into those games. Like that is volume that feels really comfortable.
Right.
Now, I have felt a little uneasy about him this year. I have not drafted him, but I do have him as like kind of a top 25 starter, and I don't think that's wrong.
I got him like just outside. He's 25th in this market right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have him just a bit outside. This is Aaron Nola. I'm okay, but I haven't landed on him either, and that's why he's a little bit lower. And there's just some other guys I like. Now, I switched the sheet on you again here because there's two pitchers in between him and the guy I moved up. But I wanted to bring Luis Castillo in here. Nola going 94th pick overall, Castillo going 98th, and then we'll get to the last two starters in between them. I see this as like an ALNL version of each other right now. Right. And we talked a little Castillo earlier when you were talking about his volume. People are kind of looking for reasons to jump off of him. And I feel like, he's still pretty bankable, and he's in T-Mobile, and I know things were a little bit off what you expected last year. 3.64 ERA, 117 WHIP for Luis Castillo, but you're still pretty keen on him, right?
Yeah, I am 2 spots ahead of Nola. Like,
okay.
I have like a little mini tier of guys where, Castillo, Snell, Nola, Yamamoto, and now I've thrown in Justin Steele and Tyler Glass now. In that with Ryan just kind of at the bottom of it, where I kind of go like, I like all these guys. They have warts though. And so
the warts start early, like you said. Like you start seeing them pretty quickly.
Like I think it wouldn't surprise me if any of these guys busted, but I'm not banking on any of them to necessarily bust. And I think that again, the volume with Castillo is just something that is hard to find. And so like I wouldn't even mind, like, you obviously can't do this in a snake draft necessarily, but like I wouldn't mind like drafting 3 of these guys in an auction, right? And going, I'm gonna forgo the top aces, and I'm gonna get Aaron Nola, I'm gonna get Castillo, and then I'm gonna get Glass now for the upside. And I think I'm gonna get 500 pretty good innings. With
you're a lot an auction guy too. That is a strong format for you. Is your auctions, and then you have so much more control over your build there. You can do so many different things with the pitching,
especially if you like the back end of the pitching pool. Like I think we both do, which is absolutely. Like, hey, you can spend $20-something on all 3 of these guys, and then just fill out your rotation with a bunch of $5-6 guys.
Right.
I have no problem doing that in a draft. Now I haven't, because I think the better solution is to draft the guys who I have ranked right above this in that same kind of scenario. But I wouldn't have a problem necessarily doing this. And I will say that when I go to Tout Wars this weekend, guys like Nola, guys like Castillo, I think will get underrated. And I could end up with one of them if they end up being like a $14 pitcher.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And one thing I love about those industry leagues is you guys start to really know each other, right? There's maybe a turnover or two with a couple teams, but like you guys are starting to get these cores that have been together for so long, and that creates really fun auction dynamics too as people start to learn the participants, and you kind of can push people against what they like to do and things of that nature.
This one is a little bit weird because you have me and Jeff Zimmerman both in this league. We both tend to like to play the middle kind of, and would target these guys, but because we're both in the league, that becomes a little bit. And Ariel Cohen is a similar type of guy, and he is drafting for Scott Angle.
Oh man, you couldn't have found some gym off the streets.
Yeah, where Scott would normally be a guy who would like go to the upper tiers and then play stars and scrubs. So this may be a little bit different of an auction strategy than you're used to seeing me do.
At least you know it. At least you have some experience with Ariel, though. So he is coming in. He's a wonderful player. He's going to mix that up a bit, but you're not coming. It's not totally blind.
Auction drafter, super good.
No, you guys are so screwed. It's unbelievable. Scott's team is going to be lit as hell. Not that Scott couldn't get it on his own, but like having Ariel sub for you. That's I'm hoping
Scott gives him very specific instructions.
Get these guys. Ariel will be like, oh, I just couldn't get them. I had
because
to
I've
get
already
all
had
these
to
guys
do an
I
auction
like.
against Ariel and Jeff this year already for labor. I really don't want to do it again.
Oh yeah, I think it is Ariel. I'm sorry,
Ariel.
Ariel.
It is Ariel, yeah.
Ariel. Okay, I always say Ariel. And I told you we commentated NL Labor, and he was just so dialed in. I was so
Yeah.
impressed with him on the dynamics. All right, so I skipped these two guys because they're kind of like younger, more like up and coming, not quite the track record crusties like Nola and Castillo. It's Hunter Green and Tanner Bybee. Now, I'll put it simply here, and I've talked about this in the offseason a bit, but maybe it's been a while since people heard it or didn't catch it on any of the other episodes. I didn't buy anything Hunter Green did last year. I'm sorry, it was all homer suppression that I don't think that he greatly contributed to. I don't want to say he didn't do anything, right? He still has nasty stuff, and it just overpowered. But he cut his home run rate in half from 14% to 7% on the homer to fly ball, and it cut his home run rate from 1.5 to 0.7. And that's it. And he did throw 150 innings. He gets credit, for getting some more volume in there. But it wasn't a skill change. There was no pitch mix change. The velo actually went down a little bit. There's no new pitch. I just don't buy it. I think he just got lucky. I still think he's a home run machine in that park. I want nothing to do with Hunter Green as a Cincinnati Red.
I wouldn't say I want nothing to do with him because there's just a crap ton of strikeouts to be had here.
There is, but at what cost? He's picked 97.
What if last year was more indicative of who he can be? I'm not saying he's gonna be. I'm
fly ball guy in that park.
I agree.
Occam's razor, baby.
Because yes, he's been a 15% home run to fly ball rate guy previously to last season, and last season was 6.9. So, which is nice. But
right, that is nice if he can maintain it.
Feels fairly unsustainable, especially because his infield fly ball rate jumped from 6% in 2023 to 15%.
I don't believe that that's terribly sticky. To quote,
I don't either. So I do definitely think he got lucky. His BABIP went from 339 to 237 last year. Yes, I think there are lots of reasons to think he's going to regress. And I have him regressing, a fair amount, but I'm not out on him. The problem is there's always someone more in on him than I am because they will believe what they.
Where you got him? I'm about to catch you if you got him on some bullshit ass ranking. Where you got Hunter Green?
Let's see. What did I say? 22 for him, 23, 24. 29, 30, 31, 32.
Okay, you're into the 30s. You're not going to get popped.
36,
okay.
37.
Okay, you don't like Hunter Green. What are you talking about?
I didn't say it. I was in on him.
You implied that you weren't. I think you're kind of out. You're not getting him at that price.
37 is like, I don't think that is like terrible. I'm not.
No. You're down on. I'm saying you're never getting him because he's too low.
I know.
I'm okay with that, but I thought you were going to give me some BS where you're passing out all these Dodgers and then you're going to get Hunter Green ranked like 24th, and I was going to explode on you.
No.
Okay, he's 26th in the market. I got him 33. You got him 37.
I think in many ways he is Tyler Glass now.
In a much worse park on a much worse team.
Yes, less refined, much worse park, much worse team. And I do feel like there are like some injury concerns from previously that people have just forgotten about.
That's exactly what I was going to hammer you on if you were going to be having him high.
No.
Again, I misread you there and my fault. I was jumping to conclusions. You do not have him high. You don't even have him higher than me. So it turns out I love him all of a sudden. I have him 33, but I'm never getting him either. I'm obsessed with him, dude. I can't help it. I'm throwing out dog shit information today, man. I'm scamming. No, I got him 33, so I'm not getting him either. Go ahead.
The guy I do love is Tanner Bybee, though.
Tanner Bybee, baby. Let's talk Bybee. Go ahead. Floor's to you.
Great command, great control. Cleveland just knows how to make pitchers.
I think so too.
And say all you want about Bo Naylor, but they have a real good catcher actually there in Austin Hedges who's just knows how to handle a staff. And
right. Hopefully he can teach Bo some things too.
All Bybee has done, Bybee was one of my guys last year, in the year, his rookie season, where I went, I think people are just sleeping on this dude. And for some reason, they just continue to sleep on him, in spite of the fact he threw 173 innings. He improved the strikeout rate. He kept the walk rate low. He's got good command. It's not great command, but it's good command. I don't think there's anything to dislike about Tanner Bybee. I think for some reason, I think people think he's boring. You're talking about a guy who can throw 170, 180 innings with a strikeout per inning. Like, I'm going to take that all day long on a team that I think will be competitive, even though they may not win that division this year. I don't think there's anything to dislike about Tanner Bybee. I have him, 14, 15, 16th in my starting pitcher ranks. I have him above Dylan Cease. I have him above Framber Valdez. I have above these Dodger, a few of these Dodger guys that we've been talking about. Like, I love Tanner Bybee.
Got him 17th. I'm there with you. He moved up recently. Maybe it's not published yet. Yeah, he was 20th in my most recent rankings. People are going to see him move up a few spots. Tanner Bybee. Unfortunately, my biggest share of him last year was on the busted main event team, the Trout Royce one. So
he was your SP1, right?
Yes, and he was just cooking over there by himself though, because that team was garbage, and so it didn't matter. But I still count it. I still am sticking with him. I like Tanner Bybee a lot. I think he's kind of boring. We don't have to pay the spot where we have him ranked. We can get him cheaper than that. This is the
guy, right? So when I said
24, by the way, sorry,
in an auction, like, I would be fine like drafting 2 or 3 of these guys, and like Philly got my top of my rotation with these guys, but I'm not going to, because there's other guys that I like more that you could probably get for the same price or cheaper. Bybee's one of those guys. Like, don't be surprised if you see an auction team of mine that has a rotation starting off with Schwellenbach, Ober, and Bybee.
Ooh. Three of your absolute faves. Now, if the room is smart, they'll jam you up on those 3.
And they will. They absolutely will. It happens every time.
But it would be a hot trio for you.
Every once in a while, you'll find a room where they're not willing to price enforce me, and I will end up with all 3 of those guys. I'll spend 60 of my 90 pitching dollars on them, and then I'll figure out the rest.
That'd be hot, though. That'd be a really, really nice trio to start with. Yeah, I'm in on Bybee. I'm in on Cleveland. Like, they don't like revolutionize everybody. But it is just like an organizational philosophy that they just have pitchers pitch well, and they have a decent park. They have a good bullpen. He's not going to use the bullpen as much this year, so I think somebody like Bybee could actually be a volume booster. Not that he pitched poorly last year in terms of volume. He got over 170 innings, if I recall correctly. Yeah, 174. I think he's pushing $180 plus this year, because they're going to give some of those supplemental innings to the starters. That's why I'm on the Gavin Williams train too. I know you're not, because of his potential health, but I think Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee are going to bring some volume there to take some pressure off the bullpen, because they got overrun last year. Remember, it was Bybee and a merry band of goofs, because Williams wasn't there supporting him. Ben Lively was literally the number 2, and again, shouts to him. He ain't doing that again. But
all the talk this offseason right now is like, Gavin Williams, and
yes, I agree.
We'll have that discussion at another point, but
we will. I agree with that.
Or maybe you'll have it with Joe, and you'll just skip my negativity. But
I'll let you get your piece out when you come back.
People aren't talking about Bybee, and they should be. They should be talking about Bybee a lot more.
They're not, and I do agree with that. But give me both. Give me both Gardos. I'm already watching or listening to the Guards a lot, because I love Tom Hamilton, one of my favorite radio announcers in the game. So if I can get some Guardians on the squads to have even more reason to listen to them, you better believe I'm going to do that. So
I was I was watching a game the other day, and I can't remember what announcing group it was, but it was the Rays versus the Blue Jays, and I legit fell asleep in my chair. So I forget how lucky I am with the Giants.
Yes, you are.
Until I'm listening to games somewhere else, and legit.
Hey, was it Buck Martinez? Hey, you can't fall asleep with him. You got Dalton Varsho here. Buck Martinez.
It must have been the Tampa Bay guys.
It had to have been the Tampa Bay guys, because it's a very distinctive situation over there with Buck Martinez. That I forget which game he was a part of, a video game, but it just burned into my brain. His voice there, Buck Martinez. It's a distinctive voice. I think they have Dan Schulman as their main guy too, so I'd be surprised if that was the one that put you to sleep, because they're actually pretty good. I'm giving Buck a little.
It might have been the radio guys or something like that.
It could have been fill-ins or somebody getting to do.
It was legitimately fell asleep. Like it was like middle of the day. Like I wasn't even that tired.
Now, I will say this: baseball is, and this isn't a great, this shouldn't be the tagline for Rob Manfred to use. Baseball, it's great to fall asleep to, but it is. It really, really is, man. And I mean that positively. Obviously, the marketing department isn't jotting that one down. Oh, yeah. Fall asleep while watching our games. But
Spend less on melatonin this spring with baseball.
There you go. Change your melatonin budget to an MLB at bat budget and sign up right now. But hey, a Sunday afternoon nap with ball games on where you're not fully asleep and you're still kind of like hearing it so that when you wake up, you're right in like where it was. Oh, 6-4. You were kind of like dreaming about it, so to speak. The greatest naps ever. And frankly, I cannot wait for them to return. They don't hit the same in spring training, so they need to be during the season. But yeah, anyway, I'm blabbing here. I'm going to go eat this lunch. We got a second episode in. I'm going to get something situated with Joe. I'm still doing my stuff with Eric. We got most of the AL Central done. We even went longer on the Central than we did the East, so we had to cut off at 2 hours. Because
you're going to get a lot of episodes this week because I'm about to we're going to release this episode today. And then I will schedule the Potapalooza episode that we did for tomorrow.
Perfect.
So even if you aren't able to get with Joe or you're only able to get with Joe once, like you're going to get a lot of content this week.
There you go. Because if you didn't get to see Potapalooza with me, Nick, Justin, and Jason, you're going to want to check in on that.
It was an absolute nightmare.
It was
controlling
amazing.
You three in an hour.
Wrangling us.
Impossible.
You had me dead tired though, so I wasn't as wily. But hopefully I was
you did your
not
best.
too sleepy.
No, it was great. It was a lot of fun.
I still brought my game. All right.
Yeah.
Part 2 in the books here. We're through about 30-something pitchers. Obviously, there's still so many more to talk about. I gave this kind of going away speech to you yesterday, but have a great time in New York. We'll talk when you get back, and good luck at the Tout Wars auction. I know it's going to be a bear of an auction in there with that room. So have a great time out there. Is Danielle going with you?
She is. So
excellent. Well, I hope you guys have a great time.
Last minute decision, but she is coming with me. And if you are in New York, and you want to meet up and hang out. A lot of us will be finding places to chill. Feel free to just slide in my DM and be like, hey, where are you guys hanging out? And I'll let you know. So
there you go.
Especially Friday night, we're definitely going to be trying to find a place in Midtown to go chill and hang out at. And it's a lot of fun.
TGFBI, I'm on deck. Whoa, somebody just took Connor Norby at pick 258. Is that where he's going these days?
Maybe, yeah. There's some people who are irrationally
hard pass for me. We set our piece on Mr. Norby. Yeah. We're gonna get in trouble if we go too much harder on him. We were pretty brutal, mostly because of his lineup, though. If we're being fair, we said he's gonna have like 12 ribbies and 7 runs scored.
I have some TGFBI problems. I have lots of TGFBI problems.
With your team or with getting everybody on track? Okay.
My team. Kev gave me a green light because Kev does like these graded drafts for TGFBI.
Oh, sweet.
Give you green, yellow, or red. And he gave me green. I think I deserve a red. Like this, I don't. It's not that I dislike the players I drafted, but my roster construction has been terrible. Zach Neto is my only shortstop.
Oh yeah. I remember you're getting sniped left and right by Tim Kanak. He's busting you up.
I still don't have a CI. I got sniped on Dansby Swanson by Tim, so I had to take Zach Neto. And like it has been just a brutal draft.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And I didn't take a freaking outfielder until like the 13th round.
What the hell? Who do you have?
I actually really like my outfield in spite of that. So my outfield started off with Kerry Carpenter.
Love it. I got him as my 4th outfielder, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Jake McCarthy, George Springer, Jesus Sanchez, and Jacob Young.
Okay, I will agree that you made the most of it, but you got to be stacked elsewhere then with that light of an outfield and middle.
Yeah, I've got 2, top catchers in Adley and Langoliers.
Crazy pitching?
Oh yeah, my pitching's great, dude.
Okay.
Logan Gilbert, Pablo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach, Brandon Pfaadt, Cody Bradford, Max Meyer, Nick Martinez. My closers are Ryan Walker and Trevor McGill.
That's making some more sense. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. again, have a wonderful time out in New York. You'll get the Pot of Blues episode tomorrow, and then we'll figure out the rest of it. But I'm going to get going and go eat this lunch. I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.